Hello my fellow nerd knights and welcome to Classically Trained Nerds. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a new to YouTube book tag that I found on Coda Jones's channel. If you haven't seen her channel, I'll link it below. It's really cool. It's got a lot of reading and writing style tips and some really cool videos on how to nanowrite. So if you're into that, it's definitely something worth watching. So let's just jump right into question number one. So question number one is, where are you from? So I am from the Great White North of Vermont in the United States, home of maple syrup and the Green Mountains. So question number two is how old you are. So I am currently 28 years old, and on Wednesday the 25th of January I will be 29, so I'm looking on the broad side of 30 pretty soon. Why did you join Booktube? So this is a kind of a complicated question. So I used to work in a retail environment, and during some of the slow periods, me and my friends I used to work with used to rant and rave about the latest book that we've read, and we used to theorize and come up with these crazy scenarios, and we used to act out certain scenes. I mean, it was just probably the best time, and it's probably one of the reasons why I stayed at that job as long as I did, was because I enjoyed talking about it. And I figure I can create a YouTube channel that would, emphasize that. And then I later find out that there's a huge community of other people who are doing the same thing. And it seemed right. It seemed like a good fit, something I would want to do. And I seem to really enjoy making these videos, and I enjoy talking about books. So put everything together and I'm a booktuber now, so yay! So question number four, what is the meaning behind your channel name? So the channel name is Classically Trained Nerds. Now, in the same set of friends I used to have, we used to all be nerds, and we were self-proclaimed geeks, and we loved it. Now, I used to be called a classically trained nerd because I was very well-rounded. Some of my nerd friends really, specialized in Star Wars stuff, or specialized in comic books or video games. But they liked me because I could specialize in everything. I didn't know 100% about everything, but I could pretty much nerd out on any subject matter, really. Science, computer technology, books, comics, Marvel, DC. I mean, everything was up for grabs in my brain, and I can still, really nerd out about pretty much everything. So they called me a classically trained nerd. So question number five is, what type of books do you read and or want to talk about? So I read mainly fantasy, and I read some sci-fi, so definitely a little bit more on the fiction side of life. I am not against reading anything else, really. Like, I'm open to a lot of things. I will gravitate to the fiction section of most of the bookstores. And, something I really love steampunk is a really cool genre that I think deserves more credit. Cyberpunk also is a pretty cool, although I'm seeing a lot of cyberpunk and a lot more anime and a lot more comic books these days. I really enjoy, epic fantasies. I like getting lost in worlds. I like books that have, massive worlds built, and, if you can put multiple stories in this world, I pretty much like it. If there are multiple storylines going on at once, or if there's just multiple books taking place in the same world, like Terry Pratchett, it's a really nice one. He's a satirical fantasy, but there are multiple storylines happening in the same city. And I really do enjoy that quite a bit. I think that's the type of book that I can really get passionate about, and I can really, just talk about it pretty much for hours and hours. Although I don't think people will watch a 3-hour long video about me and Terry Pratchett books, or me and Patrick Rothfuss. I mean, I could do it, but I don't think anybody will watch it, so I won't make it. Number 6, what is your favorite author? Really tough question. My favorite author tends to change from point to point. And I mean, I guess some consistencies, I like Brandon Sanderson, I like Patrick Rothfuss, I like, some of the classic Tolkien's, or even Robert Heinlein on the sci-fi. He's very classic, wrote Stranger in a Strange Land, awesome book. I could reread that multiple times. A new author I really enjoy is Dennis Taylor, when he wrote the We Are Bob, We Are Legion series. I did a video on that, and it's probably one of my favorite books to come out in the last year or so. Again, tough question. I tend to try to like everything. When I read a book, I try to see what the author's vision is, and I tend to gravitate and attach to it, and because of that, it just makes it hard to pick a single author. So question number 7, what book did you last read? So the last book that I read was Mage Slave by R.K. Thorne. I did a video on it just recently, and it was a good book, pretty mediocre, very entertaining. Definitely didn't disappoint me as much as I thought it was going to. It's kind of an unknown author with an unknown title. I just kind of randomly picked it. And it was pretty good. It's kind of a romance, high fantasy, so it was definitely a mashup of genres. Done very tastefully. Would recommend it if you're into the sort of the romance and you want a little bit more of a fiction-based setting as well. So check it out. So question number 8, what are you currently reading? So I'm currently reading 2 different books right now. So I'm trying to figure out how to read more in my time, and a lot of other YouTubers and booktubers had the advice of reading things in different formats. So on ebook, I'm reading Outlander by Dennis E. Taylor, and in actual physical book, I'm reading The Shadow Throne, which is book 2 of Django Wexler's Shadow Campaigns, and book 1 was phenomenal, which was The Thousand Names. If you've never heard of a flintlock fantasy, I'm definitely going to recommend it. It's something fairly unique in the fantasy genre, so get on that. But I'm going to see how this multiple book thing works. I'm going to see if I can keep track of everything and not mix the 2 storylines. I'm also doing 2 types of different genres. So you have a flintlock fantasy, which is, medieval-esque kind of Renaissance style warfare, as opposed to Outlander, which is more into the sci-fi side of life. So hopefully I can keep them separated. If you have any tips or hints on that, if you've done it in the past successfully, please let me know. I'm winging this, so trial and error, I guess, right? Question number 9, what do you use for bookmarks? So I guess I have a secret X-Men power in that I know where I left off in most books. Now, I do a lot of ebooks and audiobooks, so that's kind of just automatic. But when I do regular paperback versions, I just somehow know what page I left off on. Unless I haven't picked the book up in like a month or more, I can usually find where I was pretty quickly and pretty easily. So I never really use bookmarks, although my wife did get me this really cool bookmark the other day, and I thought it'd be pretty cool. I've used it a couple of times, so I guess this is my bookmark of bookmarks. I am definitely not a dog ear person. I can't deal with that. I know I don't have OCD or anything like that, but like something about just having a nice pristine book after you've read it, it just tickles my fancy. So question number 10, show us your TBR pile or your to be read pile. So I just recently purchased The Queen of Blood at my big company bookstore, and I'm waiting for that to come in because I wanted to get the hard copy. And then I have these ones. So I have Iron Jackal by Chris Wooding. I'm already a little bit into this, or at least I started being a little bit into this a little while ago. Charlene Harris kind of recommended this book, so I definitely will take that advice there. I'm rereading Mistborn because my friends are just getting into this and I want to chat with them about it more, so I kind of want to reread some more Brandon Sanderson and get my mind back into it so that we can have some more nerd conversations about it. We have The Shadow Throne, which I just talked to you about a second ago, by Django Wexler. And we have Dwarves by Marcus Heights, and I did read about half this book previously. I am going to reread the first half again to get back into it. It was a really interesting book. I can't remember what caused me to take it down. I think it was just a life event and I couldn't really find time to read, but we're going to solve that problem pretty easily there. So question 11, what do you prefer? Hardcover books, paperbacks, ebooks, or physical books? So this is a tough question because I physically enjoy the visual of hardcover books. I think they look really nice on the shelf. For readability, I couldn't give a hoot. Just give me the book. That's all I really care about. Now, I tend to read a lot of ebooks because of the convenience. You know, I have this nice tablet here that pretty much I use for work and school, so having an ebook is really convenient on here. And because of the size of this thing, it's very book-like, and I can turn the pages, you know, in my Kindle. It's really cool. Feels like a book, but doesn't feel like a book at the same time. Very strange. So I tend to gravitate towards this just again for the convenience, but I guess if I had to pick, I would go hardcover. I would actually go signed by the author hardcover, but I guess that's not one of the choices, so... So question 12, what book or book series got you into reading? This is like an impossible question because I've always read. I don't really remember a part of my life where I didn't, you know. I was either really into video games or I was really into book or I was really consumed by something. And usually it was a book at the time or a comic book or something of that nature. I guess what got me into currently maybe like the renaissance of me reading books is, you know, Terry Pratchett kind of really picked me back up, you know, when I was 18, 19 years old, getting out of high school, kind of just, you know, screw school, you know, I don't want to do that sort of thing. And I tried to like boycott anything that involved my brain for a little while. But it was Terry Pratchett, I think, you know, in Thud or Going Postal, those two books, which are phenomenal, by the way. You should read those if you haven't. And it kind of drew me into the book genre again. And I picked right back off where I left, I guess. So it was a little hiatus for a couple months, and then ta-da, more books. Love books. Books. Books everywhere. So question 13, how did you discover booktubing? So it's kind of a recent thing, actually. You know, I've been addicted to YouTube for quite a while, and I didn't know Booktube was a thing until I started doing it. So I created Classically Trained Nerds as a channel to, you know, talk about all types of nerd things, and I created the audio book review, which turned out to be a Booktube. So after doing some research on my own channel or my own video, I found out that there's this entire community of people who do what I'm doing, and they are super loving and super, you know, communal, and you know, I just fell in love with it. You know, I did more research, and you know, there's just tons of people, and it's a growing community, and everyone is just so happy to talk to each other. You know, I've reached out to a couple of booktubers already, and you know, they're quick to respond to the comments, and they're super friendly and super open. You know, it's a really great place to be, and I guess that's how I discovered it. Kind of discovered it myself for myself, and then discovered that there was a lot more to it. So yeah, you know, I'm excited to be a booktuber. Question 14, what challenges do you think you'll face in your channel? So everything I do is a challenge. I'm learning this stuff from scratch. You know, my first videos, which are not published, are horrendous. You know, I knew nothing about lighting. I knew nothing about what type of camera or lenses I had. You know, I had to really just learn everything just from scratch. And I'm still learning. Everything's new. Every video that I make is slightly better than the last one because I've taken the challenge of something new and try to grow and try to expand on my knowledge. That being said, another challenge I think I'm going to have is that I want to do everything. I've always had this problem where my ambitions are a lot bigger than my capabilities. So like, I want to do video game on my channel, I want to do book reviews, I want to do movie reviews, I want to do news, I want to do, I mean, just everything possible, and I know that I need to narrow my focus down. So I guess the challenge is actually narrowing myself to a couple of different things to do so that I can grow that focus as opposed to just being scatterbrained everywhere. So question 15, which is the final question, where can you be found on social media? So I am currently creating a Facebook page for Classically Trained Nerds. I am actively on Twitter currently, and I do have plans on making an Instagram. I will link my Twitter below, and when I get the Facebook and the Instagram pages up, I'll add that to the description as well. Thank you, my fellow Nerd Knights, for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. It does help the channel out greatly. You can also follow me on Twitter for more nerd news. If you enjoyed the video, please share it with your friends. Again, I hope you have a good morning, evening, or afternoon, and thank you for watching.